Welcome to another deep dive. This time we're going to be exploring the world of Islamic psychology.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah. Someone sent us over this book, Developing a Model of Islamic Psychology and Psychotherapy.
Yeah.
And I have to say, it's pretty dense.
It's a challenging read.
Yeah, and that's why you're here.
Haha. I'm happy to help unpack it with you.
Yeah. So I've always kind of thought about psychology as being, universal. But this book kind of makes a case for, like, a distinctly Islamic model of psychology.
Mm-hmm.
So why is that?
Well, it comes down to the idea that, Western psychology, as we understand it, offers really valuable insights into, the human mind and behavior. Mm-hmm. But it's almost like we're looking at this vast, complex mosaic, right, through a single lens. And so what this book is proposing is that Islamic thought can give us another lens, another way to understand the human experience.
I like that.
Yeah.
So it's like seeing psychology through a completely different lens.
Exactly.
Okay. So tell me more about this Islamic perspective on psychology then.
So the book kind of lays out this multi-layered model of the soul, and they focus on 4 Arabic terms, which are nafs, qalb, aql, and ruh.
Okay.
And some of those matter.
Yeah, some of those I've heard before.
Yeah, they sound familiar, but...
Yeah, maybe just like a little reminder of what those mean exactly.
Yeah. So think of nafs as like our base, right? It encompasses our primal instincts, our desires, our impulses.
Yeah.
Kind of like the ego, that part of us that always seeks that immediate gratification.
Oh, yeah, I know that one.
Right. We all have it.
Very familiar.
And then you have qalb, which is often translated as heart, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it's much more than just emotions.
Oh.
So imagine it as the core of our being, where we perceive the world, where we interact with the world.
Okay.
But here's the key. It's also where our spiritual connection resides.
So it's not just feelings, but it's also intellect.
Exactly. And that's where aql comes in.
Mm-hmm.
So aql is like the cognitive aspect of qalb.
Okay.
So that capacity for reason, for analysis, for understanding.
Okay, so we've got like our primal instincts, we've got our heart mind.
Mm-hmm.
What about ruh?
Ruh is the essence, right? It's that divine spark within us.
Okay.
It's what connects us to something bigger than ourselves, into the divine source.
Okay, so these aren't just like separate parts of ourselves, right? These must all like connect and kind of
Oh, absolutely.
intertwine.
Yeah, the book stresses that these elements are interconnected and dynamic.
Okay.
They're always interacting, they're influencing each other.
Yeah.
But here's where it gets really interesting.
Okay.
This system, it's not fixed.
Okay.
The nafs, the author argues, undergoes stages of development, like a journey of spiritual growth.
A journey of the soul.
Yeah.
Okay, tell me more about these stages.
So the book highlights 3 main stages that are, rooted in Islamic scripture. And the first is nafs al-amara.
Okay.
And this is the soul at its most, basic.
Okay.
Driven by pure desire.
Mm-hmm.
Like, think of a toddler.
Yeah.
Who's ruled by their impulses, seeking instant gratification.
Yeah.
That's nafs al-amara.
I feel like we've all been there.
Oh, absolutely.
Uh-huh. So how do we move beyond the toddler soul stage then?
Well, the book suggests that through self-awareness, through conscious effort, we can transition to the next stage, which is nafs al-lawama,
Okay.
which translates to the self-reproaching soul.
Self-reproaching. That sounds kind of rough.
It can be. It's that point where we start recognizing our flaws,
Okay.
right? The gap between our actions and our aspirations.
So like almost like the teenager stage of...
Yeah, like the teenager realizing they're not the center of the universe anymore.
Right, exactly.
It can be a time of angst, of self-criticism,
Yeah.
but it's also where real growth begins.
Okay, so if that's like the teenager stage, what's the goal? What does like a fully developed nafs look like?
The ideal, and this is, challenging to fully achieve, is something called nafs al-mutmainah, and that is the soul at peace.
The soul at peace?
At peace.
Okay.
It's a state of deep contentment, of harmony, where our actions are aligned with our truest nature,
Okay.
our fitra, this inherent God-given nature that we all possess.
Wow, that state of complete harmony just sounds
Incredible.
something to strive for.
Yeah, yeah. Does the book give any examples of how we might cultivate that kind of peace?
It does, and it really emphasizes that achieving this peace requires a good deal of inner work.
Mm-hmm.
And this process is referred to as jihad an-nafs, the struggle of the soul.
So it's not about avoiding the challenges, it's about facing them head on.
Yeah, you could say that.
Okay.
It's about understanding that suffering, while difficult, isn't inherently bad. Remember the nafs al-lawama, that self-critical stage?
Right. Often that introspection comes from facing difficult experiences.
Okay.
It's in those moments when we confront our weaknesses that we create the space for real transformation.
So it's less about like seeking out suffering and more about taking those inevitable like bumps in the road as opportunities for growth.
The author actually quotes a scholar who compares this process to refining metal with heat and pressure. Right? You burn away the impurities to reveal its true beauty. And similarly, we face these challenges, these inner, and I love this, lions and pigs, as the scholar puts it.
Lions and pigs. Okay, now you have to tell me more about that.
We'll dive into that right after this.
Wait, no. Don't leave me hanging with the lions and pigs. What do they represent?
Okay. Think of these as metaphors, right, for these internal battles that we face on this journey of the soul.
So tell me about these like inner lions and pigs. What do they represent?
Yeah, that's such a vivid metaphor, right?
Yeah.
So this scholar is drawing on Islamic tradition to describe these kind of negative qualities within us that we struggle with. So the lions represent our more aggressive tendencies.
Okay.
Anger, arrogance, that desire to dominate.
Right.
Like, think of those times when you roar a little too loud, metaphorically speaking.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay, I can see that.
Yep.
So those are the things that make us kind of fierce, but not in a good way. What about the pigs?
So the pigs represent those baser desires.
Okay.
Greed, gluttony.
Okay.
That constant craving for more.
Right.
It keeps us stuck in that cycle of dissatisfaction, always seeking fulfillment in external things rather than turning inward.
So like battling our inner beasts, it's kind of a powerful image. But how do we actually fight them? It can't just be about like willpower, right?
You're right. It's not just about willpower. The book talks about taskiat an-nafs, which translates to purification of the soul.
Okay.
And it's not a quick fix, but a multifaceted approach to kind of refining ourselves.
What does that look like in practice then?
Well, it starts with self-awareness.
Okay.
Right? You have to know your lions and pigs, so to speak, before you can challenge them.
Right.
Then there's introspection.
Okay.
Examining your thoughts, your actions, your motivations to really understand what drives those negative patterns.
So a lot of looking inward, but then how do we actually like change those patterns?
Well, the book emphasizes aligning your actions with Islamic principles.
Okay.
Right. Living in a way that cultivates peace within and around you.
Okay.
But it's also about consciously nurturing positive qualities.
So it's not just about like conquering the lions and pigs, but replacing those tendencies with something.
Exactly. It's about tahib al-akhlaq, the refinement of character.
Okay.
It's like tending a garden.
I was going to say, that sounds like gardening.
You pull out the weeds, but you also plant flowers.
Right.
You nurture things like patience, kindness, generosity, compassion.
Okay.
Qualities that nourish your soul,
but
also benefit those around you.
I like that analogy a lot. So it's this two-pronged approach, right? Like taming the negative, cultivating the positive.
Yeah.
But ultimately, what's the goal of all of this?
The goal is to shift the balance within.
Okay.
It's about moving from a state where your nafs, those primal instincts, are in control, to a place where your Qalb, your heart-mind, leads the way, guided by ruh, your connection to the divine.
You mentioned earlier that therapy plays a role in all of this. So how does like seeking help fit into this model?
That's where it gets really interesting.
Yeah.
This book argues that therapy, viewed through this lens, is about so much more than just techniques and strategies. It really stresses the importance of the therapist's own spiritual development.
So it's not just about their knowledge, but about like who they are as a person.
Precisely. The book uses this powerful phrase, professional mirror.
Okay.
It suggests that an effective therapist in this model isn't just someone with a degree, but someone who has done their own inner work.
It's interesting.
Someone who is able to reflect the divine back to their clients.
Professional mirror. It is a powerful image. And it makes you think about like how the therapist's own like state of being, their own like energy can really impact that therapeutic relationship.
Absolutely. Yeah. And while techniques are important, the book does touch on, incorporating traditional Islamic practices like contemplation, remembrance of God into therapy.
Right.
It's really about the therapist being a guide.
Okay.
A companion on the client's own journey of jihad and nafs.
So it's a much more holistic approach.
Yes.
Recognizing that our psychological and spiritual selves are deeply, deeply intertwined.
Yeah.
This is a lot to consider. What, stands out to you as maybe the most crucial takeaway for our listener when it comes to this idea of jihad and nafs?
For me, it's the idea that we all have this innate capacity for spiritual growth.
Okay.
It's not about becoming someone different,
Right.
but uncovering that inherent goodness, that fitra within.
Right?
It's like polishing a diamond
Yeah.
to reveal its brilliance.
Okay.
He was always beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
It just needed a little work to shine.
I like that analogy. And it sounds like the journey itself can be challenging, but the destination, that state of peace,
Right.
that nafs al-mutmainah, seems like it has these implications for how we live our lives, how we interact with the world,
Absolutely.
how we find our purpose even.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The book stresses that this journey isn't just about personal transformation. It's about creating a more just and compassionate world, which leads to another fascinating aspect. It makes you wonder, are there universal truths about the human experience, just expressed in different ways across different cultures and religions?
Right, this whole idea of jihad and nafs.
Yeah.
The struggle of the soul. It kind of reminds me of other traditions that emphasize inner work. Buddhism talks about mindfulness.
Right.
Christians have the practice of confession.
Exactly. And even that idea of the therapist as a professional mirror, right?
Yeah.
It resonates with how humanistic and psychodynamic approaches in psychology really value the therapist's own personal development.
Okay.
So it's this model is kind of bridging the spiritual and the psychological in a way that we don't always see.
And it makes me think about something else that the book brought up too, those cultural assumptions that we kind of bake into how we understand psychology in the West.
That's such an important point.
Yeah.
And the author really argues that, concepts like individualism or even how we define mental health are shaped by these Western values that aren't necessarily universal.
So what works for one person in one culture
Exactly.
might not be the right fit for somebody else with a totally different worldview.
Exactly. And it highlights why diverse perspectives in psychology are just so crucial, right?
Yeah.
By incorporating models like Islamic psychology, we can create a more inclusive and sensitive approach to mental health.
It's like we're expanding the toolkit, right? Recognizing that there are multiple ways to approach human suffering, not just one right answer.
And even beyond cultural sensitivity, these different models can offer really valuable insights for everyone.
Okay.
No matter their background.
Right, that focus on interconnectedness and social responsibility that we see in Islamic psychology.
Absolutely.
It makes you kind of think about mental health more holistically, right?
Yeah.
Not just on an individual level, but as part of this larger social fabric.
Absolutely. Imagine if we kind of shifted our focus from individual well-being to a sense of collective well-being and drew wisdom from all these various cultures and traditions.
It's a really powerful vision, and it seems like it starts with simply being open to these other perspectives, right? To these different ways of understanding what it even means to be human.
Absolutely. And look at you diving headfirst into this book.
Huh?
It's inspiring to see how a single text can spark so much curiosity and reflection.
That's the beauty of these deep dives, right?
It is.
It's not just about absorbing information.
Yeah.
But it's about broadening our perspectives, challenging our assumptions.
Yeah.
And ultimately understanding ourselves and the world around us a little bit better.
A little bit better.
Yeah.
And who knows, maybe this deep dive has planted a seed for your own journey of jihad and nafs.
Maybe so.
Maybe it sparks some curiosity about other spiritual traditions or inspired you to explore your own inner world a little deeper.
Yeah, definitely. I feel like that's already happening.
It's a process, right?
It is.
But whatever the case,
we
hope it's left you with a sense of wonder and possibility.
Yeah.
The understanding that the journey of the soul, it's a lifelong adventure.
It is. And on that note, we will leave you to continue your own deep diving.
Yes.
Until next time.